You step outside in the morning, coffee in hand, and walk past the bush by the fence line. The mockingbird's right there. It doesn't fly off. It doesn't sound the alarm. It just looks at you, then goes right back to what it was doing, like you're not even there. 3 months ago, that's not how it went. 3 months ago, that same bird was diving straight at your head every time you got near that spot. So what changed? The bird didn't get friendlier. It made a decision about you. And it made that decision a lot earlier than you'd think. If you pay attention, the mockingbird in your yard is sending you at least 7 different signals right now, telling you exactly what it thinks of you. Welcome to Garden Bird Secrets. If this is your first time here, hit subscribe, because what you're about to hear will change the way you hear your own backyard. Today, it's 7 signs, 7 specific behaviors that show the mockingbird in your yard has filed you under safe. A few of these you've probably already seen without realizing it. But the last one's different. It's not just about whether the bird's scared of you anymore. It's about how much that bird trusts you. Right at the moment, it's got the most to lose. Here's something most people don't know. A 2009 study out of the University of Florida found that mockingbirds can pick out one specific person after just 2 encounters near the nest, not weeks of watching. 2. That bird isn't treating you like a human. It's grading you, individually, starting from the second time you showed up. There's a term wildlife researchers use, flight initiation distance. It's the distance an animal lets you get to before it takes off. With a strange bird, that distance is usually pretty wide. But with urban birds that have gotten used to one specific person, studies on bird behavior at several U.S. universities have found that distance shrinks noticeably with repeated, harmless contact. In your yard, that means this. If the mockingbird lets you get closer than it lets a stranger, that's not luck. That's a number it's calculated, based on every time before this that you walked by and didn't do anything dangerous. If you've ever had a mockingbird come at your head for walking too close to its nest, you know that's not something you forget. But here's the interesting part. That behavior isn't fixed. Nest defense data from Cornell Lab of Ornithology shows attack intensity drops off when the same person keeps showing up without threatening the nest. In your yard, that means this. If you used to get that welcome and you're not getting it anymore, the bird hasn't forgotten you. It remembers you just fine. It's just moved you off the list of things it needs to defend against. A neighbor of mine told me about this. Last spring, every time he mowed near the bush in the corner of his lot, the mockingbird would come down screaming and chase him all the way to the back door. He was ready to just tear the bush out. He didn't. He kept mowing on the same schedule, didn't change a thing. By the end of summer, that bird barely acknowledged him, even with the mower running a few feet from the nest. He didn't do anything to tame it. He just kept showing up, over and over without causing harm. The bird did the rest. When a bird feeds near a stranger, it keeps snapping its head up, checking for threats between bites. Vigilance research on urban birds in the U.S. shows that head-up frequency drops noticeably when the bird's near someone it's already familiar with. In your yard, that means this. If the mockingbird's feeding calmly, head down longer, scanning less when you're standing nearby, it's not being careless. It's showing you it doesn't need to watch you anymore. Mockingbirds can mimic up to 200 different sounds. That's Cornell Lab's number. But here's the part most people miss. How much a bird sings when people are around is tied directly to whether it feels safe. A bird on edge usually stays quiet or sticks to short alarm calls. In your yard, that means this. If the mockingbird's singing freely, long phrases, even while you're working nearby, it's not singing in spite of you being there. It's singing because you being there stopped being a problem. This is the sign that gets misread the most. Some people say the mockingbird in their yard follows them. from the porch to the mailbox, one corner of the yard to another, without ever attacking. The Audubon Society documents this as a form of territorial behavior. The bird isn't chasing you off, it's actively tracking who's moving through the space it considers its own. A lot of people mistake that for the bird being clingy or aggressive. It's actually the opposite. That's not aggression. That's loyalty with feathers. A bird doesn't follow someone it sees as dangerous. It follows someone it's already accepted as a fixed part of its territory. A viewer once wrote to me about this. Every morning, when she walked from her porch to check the mail, the mockingbird would hop branch to branch, keeping nearly the same distance the whole way, always moving in the same direction as her. She said it felt like something was escorting her out the door every single day. She wasn't imagining that. If you've ever felt like that bird was keeping tabs on you, you weren't wrong. Unmated male mockingbirds often sing at night, especially under streetlights. That's according to Cornell Lab of Ornithology. That nighttime song is usually about attracting a mate, not sounding an alarm. But when an unfamiliar person shows up near the nesting area after dark, that song can shift into a clipped, alarmed call. In your yard, that means this. If you go outside in the evening and the mockingbird's singing doesn't change rhythm, doesn't switch over to alarm mode, it's already recognized those footsteps, even in the dark. Stick around, because the last part changes everything. This is the sign that matters most, because it happens at the exact moment the bird is most vulnerable all year, nesting season. Nest defense data from Cornell Lab shows mockingbird parents react with intense aggression to any unfamiliar movement near the nest when there are eggs or chicks inside. That's the strongest their defensive instinct ever gets. But with a person they've come to know over months, that reaction nearly disappears. The parent keeps feeding, keeps guarding the nest, doesn't sound the alarm, even when you're standing closer than anyone else would be allowed to stand. That's not a bird that stopped being careful. That's a bird that decided, at the exact moment it has the most to lose, that you're not one of the threats it needs to guard against. If the mockingbird in your yard lets you stand near a nest with chicks in it and doesn't react, that's not a small coincidence. That's the biggest piece of evidence it can possibly give you. Tell me what you saw. I read every one of these. I'll see you in the yard.